This is macOS Ken.
Evercore raises its price target on Apple, a timeline for diversifying Apple's supply chain, and AFC Richmond takes the video game field. It is Thursday, the 22nd of September, 2022. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Notion, one workspace for your whole team. Learn more and get started for free at Notion.com. This show is also sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. You might be a great problem solver, but can you always tell that a problem is a problem? Can you see when there's a problem to be fixed? I've had it happen where attitudes and situations just are. In my mind, they become states of being, not problems to take care of. Therapy can help reframe some of that thinking, turning "that's just the way it is" into "here is a thing that I can do." If you're ready for that, there's BetterHelp. BetterHelp won't fix everything, but a therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. I like BetterHelp's convenience and flexibility. You tell them the kind of thing you want to work on and the kind of therapist you want to work with, and they work to find the right person for you. You can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours and start talking via phone, video chat, or text. Personally, I like the phone, but whatever works for you, that is how BetterHelp works. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/macOSKen today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/macOSKen. BetterHelp.com/macOSKen. And thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's show. While most analysts seem excited about the level of iPhone 14 Pro orders, none have seen fit to adjust their targets on Apple shares. None, that is, except Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote earlier this week wherein he raised his price target on Apple shares by $5. He's noticed what other Apple analysts have noted. The higher the number of Pro phones Apple sells, the more money Apple makes. Running through a few points pointed out, iPhone 14 Pro Max demand is at 33% this year, up from 14% last year for its 13 Pro Max predecessor. Across both Pro models, this year's demand is at 56%, up from last year's 41%. More people seem to be opting for higher memory capacities, with the average moving from 263 gigabytes last year to 286 gigabytes today. Don't ask me how. This year's ASPs are up about 10% in Daryanani's estimation. Intent to buy is up on Apple Wearables, 71% now versus 67% this time last year. Adoption for Apple Pay has grown to 48% today versus last year's 43%. And Apple Care is also on the upswing, with today's adoption at 48% versus last year's 40%. All that, and did he mention iPhone? Demand for the Pro end of the iPhone 14 line is so strong, he's expecting upside versus street expectations for the September quarter and probably the December quarter as well. Mr. Daryanani has an outperform rating on Apple shares. He used this week's note to up his price target on the shares from $185 to $190. Apple plans to diversify its supply chain seem to be gearing up. TechCrunch has word of a new note from JP Morgan that has the Cupertino company increasing production in India and Vietnam. Worth noting, the note is not from the analyst who usually covers Apple for JP Morgan. A piece from Apple 3.0 says the note comes not from Samik Chatterjee, but from Gokul Hariharan. His LinkedIn profile has him operating out of the firm's Hong Kong office. All of that stated, here is what he hears according to TechCrunch. Apple will move about 5% of global iPhone 14 production to India by late this year. That'll grow to 25% of all iPhones by 2025. While nothing is as big as iPhone right now, Vietnam is getting bigger pieces of smaller segments. The report says that'll include 65% of all AirPod production, 20% of all iPad production, 20% of all Apple Watch production, and 5% of all MacBook production by 2025. The analyst says the growing presence of Apple manufacturing partners Foxconn and Wistron in India, ample labor resources, and competitive labor costs all make India look good for Apple manufacturing. You gotta figure that being less reliant on China and selling straight to Indian consumers have to be bennies as well. Apple's dealings with retail unions have crossed an ocean. Apple Insider says the Cupertino company has agreed to negotiate with store unions in Australia. This after unions down under asked Australia's Fair Work Commission to step in. According to the report, Apple has proposed a minimum rate of pay 17% above the award rate outside of weekend penalty rates, higher pay after 8 p.m. local time versus the current 10 p.m. rate increase, and wage increases of 2.8% in 2023, followed by a 2.6% increase in 2024 and 2025. Apple Insider says unions want Apple staff to have at least one weekend off per month and 2 consecutive days off when they work weekends. It's unclear, though, whether that is something Apple has offered or simply another ask. While this may sound like progress, it seems far from a done deal. The report has one union exec chastising Apple for dragging its heels until the government got involved. He's also not turned on by Apple coming in with what looks like hard offers, rather than talking to employees about what they want. No word in the piece on next steps in the process. Public testers are getting in on this week's Apple beta software fun. I told you earlier this week that developers had been seeded new builds of iOS, iPadOS, watchOS, tvOS, and macOS. While Apple's public testing program hasn't nabbed quite that much, a piece from Mac Rumors says that group does now have access to a second public beta of iOS 16.1. A separate report from Mac Rumors says public testers also got access to a 6th build of macOS 13 Ventura. Now, we expect betas to fix problems in software. Still kind of funny when betas fix problems in betas. Last week, we got word that the first developer beta of iOS 16.1 was breaking GPS on some of the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max units on which it was installed. I'm not sure whether developers had gotten the fix of their own, but yet another piece from Mac Rumors says yesterday's iOS beta for the public testing program does fix that issue. If you're in the public beta program, you know what to do. If you're not but wish you were, the cutting edge awaits at beta.apple.com. More news in a moment, but first a word from Notion, one workspace for your whole team and sponsor of today's show. If you're coordinating with anyone, Notion is an excellent tool for you. Because it's not just one tool. It's kind of what you need it to be. Not all work collaboration tools are created equal. Some help you organize your company's information. Others allow you to manage projects together. Notion does both. It is one tool for your whole team to do it all. So beautifully designed, everyone will want to use it. If you know what you want to do, the tools are there in Notion. You can figure it out on your own or use the templates and tutorials that other Notion users have put together for you. With powerful integrations and seamless navigation, you will have everything you need in one spot, no matter how far apart your team members are. Learn more and get started for free right now at Notion.com. Take the first step toward an organized, happy team today. Go to Notion.com to get started today. Notion. Notion.com. Sometimes you realize why everything should come with a warning. Don't try this at home. Nick DeCorville over at the Mac Observer has written up a new YouTube video wherein a guy tests Apple's new crash detection safety feature by crashing a car with an iPhone in it. Don't try this at home. In fairness, the guy seems to know what he's doing. The TMO piece says gadget smasher TechRax published a video showcasing his team remotely controlling a driverless car that contains a new iPhone 14 Pro strapped to the headrest of the driver's seat. Using this setup, the team attempts to crash the car into a stationary vehicle. They succeed, eventually. Once they manage what the piece refers to as a fender bender, crash detection did work. After a short delay, the piece says the feature activated automatically. It began the countdown, though the team deactivated it before emergency services were called. The team then crashed the car into a wall at a higher speed, and yes, crash detection worked again, with the team stopping the countdown before an emergency call went out. The devilish part of me wants to point out that while we know that the iPhone can detect a crash, we don't know that it will actually call emergency services after a crash. Seriously, though, don't try this at home. Crash detection is baked into Apple's latest hardware-software combo. The on-off toggle can be found in Settings. It's turned on by default in all of this year's iPhone 14 models, Apple Watch Ultra, Apple Watch Series 8, and the second-generation Apple Watch SE. Oh, and you can catch the TechRax video on YouTube. Really, truly, seriously though, don't try this at home. The Joseph Gordon-Levitt kids show Wolfboy and the Everything Factory is on its way back for a second season, and Apple TV Plus has put out a trailer for it. The Cupertino streamer issued a press release Wednesday promoting the series' return next week. According to the release, the animated epic takes Wolfboy to a new realm underneath the Everything Factory, where Nix attempts to lure him to the dark side. I'm guessing Nix is the heavy. I'm also willing to bet that Wolfboy doesn't turn to the dark side, but I've lost bets before. Season 1 of the show is available to stream now on Apple TV+. Season 2 hits next Friday, the 30th of September. Between now and then, you can catch the trailer on YouTube. And finally today, you know how Ted Lasso's Richmond AFC isn't a real football club? Well, the line's getting a little more blurry. Apple Insider says the fictitious team will take the pitch in the electronic arts game FIFA 23. That is a playable team with such playable characters as Jamie Tart, Danny Rojas, Sam Obasanya, Roy Kent, and Isaac McAdoo. According to the report, players can choose Ted Lasso as a playable manager in career mode, or manage AFC Richmond by swapping them into the Premier League or any other playable career mode league. AFC Richmond will be playable across career mode, kickoff, online friendlies, and online seasons, including the Greyhounds' Nelson Road home stadium. In FIFA 23 Ultimate Team, the piece continues, players will have customization items such as authentic kits and can select Ted Lasso or Coach Beard as a club manager. Additionally, all AFC Richmond content will be available through objectives and challenges. I assume all of that speaks to a level of realism since, to me, it sounds just as confusing as, well, football. The team will take the virtual fields next Friday, the 30th of September. They will be available on PlayStation 4 or later, Xbox One or later, PC, and Google Stadia. Ironically, Team Lasso will not be playable natively on Apple operating systems. On the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast today, TMO's Nick DeCorville joins me to talk Apple Watch SE. Why he got it, where he got it, and what he did that he thinks you should not. Plus, he's got thoughts on that crash detection video. That is all today on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com, or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Notion, one workspace for your whole team. Learn more and get started for free at Notion.com. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.